everyone, welcome back to the Science Corner. Grab your Pebbles, Sand, and Silt kit and let's get started. Grab your list of supplies so we can get ready. For today, we're on Investigation 4, Part 1. We're going to need our science notebook, which means we need our pencil, we need our hand lens, we need a vial with a cap, we need a paper plate, 4 containers, plastic cup, a zip bag, which we're going to have our stuff in already, a spoon, potting soil. We need our bag of sand, gravel, pebbles, and cup with water. So I'm just going to grab my mix, my river mix, river rocks. It's because it's pebbles, sand, and gravel. I need a cup with water. And I need my set of screens, as well as my word wall words. So I'm going to move my kit out of the way. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is check out our new material. That is this bag right here, because we've already looked at the pebbles and the sand and the gravel. So now we're going to look at this material here. This is called humus. Go ahead and open up this bag, give it a squeeze. How does it feel? It's kind of moist and soft, doesn't it? Compared to that sand one, this feels more hard. Okay. Open the top of the bag, we're going to smell it, but we're not going to smell it by sticking our nose in there. We're going to smell it like a scientist, which means you open the bag and you go like this to blow the air towards your nose and smell. Can you smell it? It smells really funky, doesn't it? It smells really weird. That is the smell of humus. Now, when we're a scientist and we're smelling things, we need to make sure that we do it carefully, which is why we don't stick our nose in the bag. We smell it by blowing the air towards our nose, because when you're a scientist, sometimes some of the things you have are dangerous, and you don't just want to breathe in that air, because that air might have something in it that could hurt you. So that's why when we breathe in new materials and we're going to smell them, only do it if someone tells you it's okay and safe to smell, which I did. I told you to smell it. And always do it carefully. Don't just stick your whole face in the bag. Smell it carefully like a scientist. So our humus is made out of decaying plants. Decaying plants give other plants nutrients. That's where that smell comes from. It's the smell of decay. So things that are breaking up and falling apart because they're so old that they're just disappearing into nothing. But they're not turning into nothing. That's where that smell is coming from, and they're becoming part of our humus. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our containers and we're going to add our pebbles, sand, and gravel to that container. Okay, now I'm going to take my container of pebbles, sand, and gravel and I'm going to add it to my bag of humus. And then I'm going to take my spoon and stir it. Now I added it to the bag because the bag will help it all stay together, and it's also going to make sure that I don't spill any anywhere. So I'm going to carefully stir it with my spoon, being careful not to rip the bag. All right. Now let's take our material and we're going to pour it onto our paper plate so we can take a closer look at it. All right, do you know what we made? This is called soil. Soil is a mixture of lots of things. It's a mixture of things that are decaying, which is our humus. It's a mixture of rocks, like our pebbles, gravel, and sand, all put together. So now that we have them all put together, how do you think we could take these things apart? What could we do? Well, we've taken things apart before, right? How did we do that? We used our screens. We got our screens out. I think that's probably what we're going to do. How else did we take things apart? Right, we used water. We got water for today's lesson, didn't we? Do you think we could use the water to take the soil apart? We can try. So first, let's make our hypothesis. Go ahead and open up your science notebook to the page that says homemade soil with water. This is what we're doing today. So we're going to make two hypotheses because we're doing two experiments. We're going to use our screens and we're going to use our water. So for the first one, right, what we're going to do, we're going to do the screens first. If you use screens, to separate soil, what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to work? I think it will at least a little. Because it'll take the rocks out of the dirt. It will work a little. To take the rocks out. All right, now we need to write how we know. How do we know this is going to work? Because we already used the screens on the pebbles, didn't we? I know this because we used the screen on the pebbles. All right, now I'm going to leave 3 blank lines. So that way when we're done, I can come back and answer my hypothesis to say if it worked or not. Now I'm going to write my second one about using water to separate the soil. So if you use water to separate the soil, what's going to happen? You think it's going to work? I think it's going to work because it worked on the sand and silt, didn't it? So the soil will be in, what happened to the sand and silt? It ended up in what? In layers. The soil will be in layers. I know this because it separated sand and silt. All right, now let's answer our question on the next page. What is soil? So what is our soil? It's a mixture, right? A mixture of what? Pebbles, gravel, sand, and humus. Soil is a mix of pebbles, gravel, sand, and humus. All right, we can't do the second part yet because we're not there yet. So first, let's use our screens to separate our soil. So I have my screen. I'm going to get another paper plate so that way I don't get soil everywhere. I'm going to put this paper plate under my container and I'm going to get out my screens. Now, how do you think we should use the screens? What screen should we use first? We have 3 different ones. The one with big holes, medium holes, or small holes. Big holes, because we want to get the biggest pieces out first. So I'm going to use my big hole screen. I'm going to take my soil and I'm going to carefully pour it over. And I'm not going to do the whole thing because it's not going to fit in this container. just going to leave the rest of my soil here. Give the screen a gentle shake so you don't end up with dirt everywhere. Okay, I'm going to take my container and take my screen and pour it into a new container so I can see what I have. And take a look at these big pieces. What do you notice about these? Well, we have the pebbles, right? Because I've seen these pebbles before. But what else is in here? Yeah, this is like a little piece of wood, just different pieces of plants that are a little bit bigger that couldn't fit through the screen. So those are the decaying plants. All right, let's do it again. Use only the soil in the container that you just sorted, and we're going to do our next screen. So next screen is going to be the medium screen. Take your container, pour it over it. Just a little bit, give it a shake. Pour a little bit more. Give it another shake. What do you think is going to end up in this one? Well, we know we're going to have pieces of gravel, right? What else are we going to have? What do you think? I think we're going to have more pieces of decaying plants because the decaying plants were in the big piece, and I bet there's some smaller pieces too because I still see I have lots of soil. I think I have everything stuck in this screen that's going to be in there, so I'm going to pour it in. You can see that there's some little pieces of gravel and plants stuck in my screen, so I'm going to get those out. Now take a look at this next piece. What do we have in here? Yeah, the gravel and pieces of decaying plant. A little bit smaller pieces. All right, now we're going to use our smallest screen. Just pour in a little bit at a time because it'll get stuck. A little bit, give it a shake. What's going to end up in this one? Sand. Right, even smaller gravel. What's going to be in the bottom? What's falling through? The sand and the tiniest pieces of soil, right? All right, I'm going to pour this in. Now I have my tiny gravel, and I can see that there are lots of little tiny bits of plant in here too, which means that my sand and tiniest gravel is in the bottom, which means that my sand and my tiniest bits of the decaying plants are in this one. All right, let's go back and answer that question, that hypothesis, since we finished it. If you use screens to separate soil, it will work a little to take the rocks out. I know this because we used the screens on the pebbles before. Did it take the rocks out? Yes, it did. But we need to add to it. So I'm going to write yes. What else did it take out? Right. It took out the pebbles as well as the different sizes of plants. It separated the pebbles and different sizes of plants. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that soil where it is because I have plenty more soil. So now we're going to use water to separate our soil. So how did we use water before? Right, we put some sand in our vial and then we put in the water and shook it. So we're going to do that, but we're going to use our soil. So I'm going to use my spoon and I'm going to spoon some soil in here. Try to make sure I get a variety of different sizes. And fill it about half full. All right, so before I put in my water, I want to check out my soil. So I'm just gonna shake it dry and see what it looks like. So if I shake it dry, does it look like it's in layers? Maybe. It's kind of hard to tell. It doesn't really look like it's in layers to me. Do you still think it's going to be in layers when we're done? We'll find out. So carefully pour in your water and fill your vial as full as you can. You might need to let it, some of the bubbles come out before you can add more water, and then put the lid on and give it a shake. Now make sure when you're shaking it, you're very careful that your lid doesn't come off, and that if there's water coming out, that you're careful where those drops are going, because this is very dirty water. So I'm gonna just give mine a shake. Ooh, look at this water. This water looks really dirty. It's just completely black. So what do I need to do now? What did we do last time? Well, it doesn't really look separated right now, although I do see some rocks in the bottom of my vial. So what do I need to do? Right, I need to just set it aside and save it for tomorrow. So I'm just going to find a safe place to put this so I can clean up. Okay, now it's time to clean up, and we have a big mess to work with, don't we? I have dirt in a bunch of different things. I have some dirt got on the table. I have lots of dirt on paper plates. So I need to first clean up my dirt as best I can. So I'm going to take my Ziploc that my humus was in, and I'm going to first pour in the containers. All right, now I'm going to add in my paper plates. So for the paper plates, fold it in half like a taco, tap it a little bit to get everything to the center, and then pour it in. This one I can do the same thing. Fold it in half, pour it in. Okay, I have my 2 paper plates. I have my screens. I'm going to make sure that my screens are clean as much as I can. I'm just going to wipe them over my paper plate. And then I'm going to put them back in their Ziploc. Now if you have a bunch of dirt on your table, you can just put it onto a paper plate and pour that in with the other dirt. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't have a bunch of dirt on the table because I was trying to be careful, but I did get some on there. Pour it in with the rest of it. And then I'm going to seal up this container. I can dump my water out. Okay, now I'm ready to put my supplies back in my kit. So I'm going to get my kit, and I'm going to put everything back inside. So the first thing I'm going to put back in is my paper plates. Then I'm going to put in my containers. I'm going to put in my magnifying glass and my spoon. I have my homemade soil, my screen, my cup, and my cup that have water in it. Now I'm going to make sure that if I put these in now, even though this one's wet, it needs to dry. So I'm not going to stack my cups, especially if I put the wet one on the bottom. I'm just going to put them separate in here. That way they can dry. I have an extra Ziploc. I might need this later, so I'm going to save the Ziploc in my kit. And then I'm going to put in my science notebook and my pencil. Now next time we're going to take a look at our soil in our vial and draw our picture. That's all for today. Thank you for joining me in the Science Corner, and I will see you next time. Keep learning. Bye!